What's up, YouTube? I'm Lo.
And I'm Emma.
And you've reached Book Girls on the Internet! Okay, we are talking about Educated by Tara Westover, pronounced she, her. This book came out in 2018, and it's a memoir, so nonfiction. Emma, what's the book about? No, I know. I'm just like, I don't want to talk all the time.
The book is about her life growing up. So she grew up in Utah?
Idaho.
She grew up in Idaho and was raised by a deeply religious family who didn't believe in a lot of the kind of systems that you would typically see in North America. And because of that, she didn't have a birth certificate, she didn't go to formal school, she wasn't really homeschooled, she had quite an eventful and interesting upbringing, and it's the story of her life and how she ended up being this woman who went to school, got her PhD, and so it's about her education, sort of like life education and formal education, and it's about, for me, the deep family relationships and how those evolved over the book. It blew me away. What did you think?
Yeah, when I was reading this book, I haven't read, I've read a lot of memoirs that are like, whoa, what an incredible story. That one is an incredible story, but it's also like not believable.
Yeah,
like,
I was gonna say it was unbelievable,
Yeah.
and not that like, wow, that's unbelievable. Like, I did not believe it.
Yeah, I kept Googling her, like Tara Westover, like to see if like she was real. Like by the end of the book, I had found her entire family on Facebook. Like it was deep. Like I found her parents' like essential oil business. I found a photo of them.
Wild.
I was sending it to my friends. I was like, this is Tara Westover's mom. Yeah.
I want to see a picture of her dad.
Yeah, I just if you read this book, I mean we will spoil some of it. It was just it was just so hard to like come back from it because I was just like I cannot believe that all of this happened. Like it was, but yeah, like Emma said, we follow literally Tara's life from the time that she gains like consciousness to all the way to like graduating from her PhD, and how number one she seeks an education, and number two how that literally ruins like her relationships with her family.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, but yes,
But yeah,
like it ruins the parents. Like she literally like becomes alienated from her parents, and it's very. I have a lot of compassion for Tara because when you get alienated to your parents, it's like over time. There's never like a clear cut, I find, and it's so. She like. I feel like she writes with a lot of clarity of like what happened, and like you can see how these moments when she looks back, how it like impacted her relationship with her parents, and yeah, it took. I really like admire her courage for writing this book.
It was beautifully written.
Yeah, it was so well written. I was reading it and I was like, this girl didn't go to school until college? Like, no way.
Yeah.
What I guess like what struck you? Like I was reading it and there were moments I was like I would put the book down or the kobo and I was just like, oh my god, and then I was just like keep reading.
The injuries to herself and family members, like her brother, her dad. I mean, spoiler, at one point her dad has this horrific injury that everyone's like, and she's, I think, at college at the time, and she gets a call and they're like, basically like he's gonna die, and because of their religious beliefs they're not bringing him to a hospital or anything like that, and she describes what she heard because she wasn't there, so what she heard kind of secondhand, and she's also very conscious of saying like, these are my memories, and she identifies where kind of her memory of the narration is different from other people who were there or who've heard about it.
Which I loved.
It was a nice touch.
Yeah. It was actually my first time to read a memoir that uses asterisks to be like, my brother remembers this differently. Or, so I thought it was so brilliant because like, obviously, like if I was to write a memoir about my family, like my sister would remember things differently too. And I thought it was so realistic in like, how do we even write about our lives?
Yeah, it made me realize if I want to write a memoir one day, I need to start keeping a diary.
I know.
I
I'm just
can't
like,
remember.
oh my god, that's a lot of work.
The injuries.
The injuries.
And that one injury from her dad, I was just picturing it and like.
Okay.
Oh.
For me, it was shocking, but I was so afraid when she was hanging from the forklift. That one was like, obviously she's alive, but
it's terrifying.
Yeah, it was just like, oh my god, like.
Yeah.
That's why I think I kept Googling her, because I was like, how is she not disfigured? Because spoiler alert, her brother Luke, one of her brother, starts abusing her psychologically and physically, and I was reading this and I was like, how is she even able to lead a normal life? Like, I don't know. It was just, some bits I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
The car accidents also were insane.
Oh, I forgot about the car accidents. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And then like the second one, and you're like, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. It's, the book. If you don't watch till the end of this video, this book is a must read if you love memoirs.
Yeah.
And it's cathartic. It's so sad. It's so complicated. It's so incredible. I just can't believe she had this one professor who believed in her. She moved to Utah for college, and she has this professor who, I guess she was just lucky to be in the right place at the right moment, and she was given those opportunities, and she was convinced to apply, and then she ended up building this whole entire career on education for her life, which contrasts so starkly with her first boyfriend, love interest, the guy who at the end she calls him, and he's like, oh, I ended up marrying, and now I'm in like the construction field, and he never graduated college, and they actually broke up because he was just not able to be with her because she had entered this space where she had, as any traumatized person, she had no boundaries, and she was constantly self-sabotaging and letting her family take advantage of her, and they basically fiddled out because of this. And when that happens in the book, I was under the impression that he was going to pursue his education, and he was also going to be
greatness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's so crazy how it totally flipped.
Yeah.
What else could we say about this book? It was phenomenal. It was unforgettable.
It was one of those books you're just really glad that you've read.
Yeah.
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 I feel like she would be incredible to listen to a TED Talk or hear her speak at some point.
Yeah. I think she did give it a TED Talk.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
She's so eloquent, and she has so many unbelievable stories.
Yeah, and she's writing a second book, and I think that so I don't know, I read so much stuff about her at this point, but I think her second book will touch on the aftermath, basically I guess memoir 2.0, but the aftermath of what happens to your life when you dish out all this family drama and become literally a New York Times bestseller over and over and over again. She has remained in the top seller list for a really long time.
It's been a massively popular book.
Yeah. Did you find something that was interesting that she omitted? I kept noticing something that she would omit.
What?
Having her period, having received no education, well, from my perspective, having received no education about her body and being raised by by a mentally ill father at the end of the day, and a manipulated mother. She completely admitted that. Encountering like changes in her body. Well, she talks about her body changing, but she doesn't talk about having her period for the first time and how she navigated that. She does not talk about any form of sexual relationship.
Yeah, and it's not funny, haha, but funny, interesting. Like, I wondered when she's describing so much of her relationship with her abusive brother, I was like,
I kept wondering if she was just not saying
what's not being said, if anything. And like, obviously, that's completely up to her to keep whatever parts of her life she wants private.
Yeah.
And this is pure speculation, but it just made me wonder. I was like, I wonder if there's something more to that.
Yeah.
Similar.
I also wondered. Yeah, I wondered as well, and in other, basically, I guess why I noticed is because in other memoirs that I've written by people who identify as women, they often talk about their first time receiving affection or having sex or having their period. One example is Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford. She's like, it's not explicit, but it's like, okay, there's an acknowledgement of like some sexual activity, some form of healthy sexual activity. Same thing with House of Sticks by Lee Tran. And I thought that was I wonder if it was on purpose or it was just kind of like she was just kind of like you said, it's a boundary.
Right.
But I thought it was very interesting that it was completely omitted. But obviously it doesn't take away from the tale. Like, that's not the point. But it was just something that I noticed, was like, oh, okay, she didn't touch on that. I thought that was interesting. I read her, like, other writing, like other essays that she wrote, and one of her speech, she talks about it's a commencement speech for Northeastern University, whatever, some kind of school. And she talks about the uninstagrammable self, and while I was reading the book, I was like, yeah, this book is not for Instagram at all. Like, your entire story is like not made for social media, and yet I think it has so much value. Like, I don't know, she's an incredible thinker. Like, I really look up
to that. And I mean, she talks about this mountain. So they basically grew up on the side of this mountain, and she talks about like the first time they went away, and she was like, I miss the mountain because that was home to her. Like, and so I kind of wanted to look up this mountain because she describes it so much, and you're like, I just can almost see it, but I don't know what it looks like. I'm just kind of picturing a weird mountain.
Yeah, I also wanted to. I wished, and I guess I could look it up, but like that junkyard. Her dad's junkyard. Like, I kept, and it's interesting because as her life changes, that junkyard changes, and her parents actually become very wealthy, which is also like such a weird plot twist of like,
there's a lot
they
of
were first like dirt poor, and then boom, like there was a literally like her mom is an OG essential oil like maker or whatever. And I almost wish that there had been photos of like what did that look like, because as readers we can only like imagine.
I felt sad for her when she described coming back, the time when it was like after the grandparents had passed, and she's like, oh, at least when my grandmother was there, she would kind of keep the junkyard contained to a certain thing, and then after she died, she describes coming back afterwards, and it had just slowly like kind of crept over everything and was spilling out and kind of just creeping down the mountain. And I feel like I could picture that so vividly, and it just made me really sad for her because of what that like represents in the change of her life.
Yeah, it almost feels like parallel to like there's something in the relationship with her parents that is like festering because she resisted, and she basically refused their lifestyle. Something that brought me so much comfort in the book was at the end, she explains how she's kept in touch with some parts of her family, I think two of her brothers and her aunts. And it's so, I don't know, I'm just so glad that those people were just like oh my God, like, of course, like your family, like even if she had barely been in touch with them, even growing up,
Yeah.
or stuff like that. Yeah, um, I it was a crazy book. It was a good, but recommended.
Definitely recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was enjoyable to read.
Yeah, and I will definitely be on the lookout for her second book. Like right now, if you go on her website and you go to events, it says none right now. I'm writing or like something like that. So it's just like, whoa, does it mean it's coming soon? But yeah, if you give it a read, comment below. Thanks so much for watching. If you like our videos, please subscribe.